Hello and welcome to the devotion for Tuesday, November the 15th. Praise your values. Now, when I say praise your values, we've been talking about the family dynamics, family recipe. And what we have learned, or what I have learned, is that what we value, the things that we comment on, the things that we raise up, people begin to realize those are important to us. And when we comment on or we praise the values that we're looking for in people, people love praise. They love to get positive comments. And when we begin to consciously begin to go, this is what I'm looking for, and every time we see it, comment on it, people tend to rise to that. In fact, there's a business maxim that goes around that says people don't rise to what we expect, they rise to what we inspect. Now, in business, I mean the things that I'm going to pay attention to, the things that I comment on, the things that when they're undone, I also comment on. People very quickly realize this is something that is important to this individual. It's something I should pay attention to. So in our families, we understand people love praise, or in our work group, people love praise. If we can find the values that we want to see more of and comment on them, we will see people rise to that level of what we expect and inspect. Because if it's an unspoken thing, most of the time people don't realize it's important. They don't really rise to it. With my own kids, I learned early on, I shared with you yesterday about, with Cameron, about going, you're just acting like a baby, and he only cried more when he did that. But when I said, you're not a baby, you're a big boy, all of a sudden he tried to rise to a big boy status. And I realized calling him up was great. This is kind of along the same thing. This is a value that I want. And so with my kids, I would always go, every time they would tell the truth, I would go, that's what I love about you. You're always honest. You always tell the truth. And sometimes they would tell me stuff that their friends would just freak out. They just wouldn't even believe they said it, because I had let them know I value honesty so much. One other time, this was a poignant moment with Cameron and I. The coach had given them an opportunity with their soccer team to name the team, and they had blue jerseys. And Cameron came up with the name Blue Ice. He just thought it was the greatest name on the planet. And he was probably 7 or 8 at the time. Well, we go there, and the coach starts saying, okay, who has a suggestion for a name? Cameron's hand was one of the first ones up. And the coach starts getting names, and he goes to Cameron, Blue Ice. Well, it turned out that the coach's son, who had a bunch of other friends on the team, they had all kind of conspired and picked the name that they wanted. And so, and I don't even remember what it was. But so the coach's son raises his hand, he says the name, and the 2 other guys sitting next to him go, oh, I love that. And so anyway, so the coach gets ready. He goes, okay, if that's all the nominations we have, and they had several, he goes, and he called the name that his son had said, and every hand in the group shot up for that one except for Cameron. And everybody else had abandoned their own name to go for the name that those boys had kind of, rallied around. And the coach couldn't even remember what Cameron had said. So he goes through the other names, and there's no hands. Nobody's voting for the other things that they had said until he got down to Blue Ice, and only one hand goes up, Cameron's. He voted for his own. And then he went through the other 2 names, and nobody voted for anything, and the team's name went to whatever the other one was. And Cameron was really bummed. He's like, I grabbed him up, and I told him, I said, buddy, I've never been so proud as a father than I was today. And I said, when every other kid abandoned their name because the coach, his son, and those other guys went there, none of them stood by their name, but you stood by your name. You saw that it was valuable. You believed in what you said, and you didn't give up. And for days, I would go, Cameron, I just can't get this out of my head. To this day, he sticks by what he believes over and over. I drilled into him how valuable that was to me, and it became a value for him. It's interesting as we look at Jesus, one of the things that he said over and over and over, in fact, 10 passages in the Gospels, Jesus goes, your faith has healed you. Your faith has saved you. Your faith has led you. Over and over, your faith, your faith, your faith. In fact, 6 times he goes it in the negative. When he goes, your lack of faith, your little faith. And no many times, telling how many times a variant of that is. But over and over, Jesus commented on faith again and again and again because he knew it was a value that they needed to recognize was important to him. Over and over, your faith has healed you. Your faith has saved you. Why did you have a lack of faith? Why didn't you believe? Why? He knew that that was a value, and he raised that value up. And the disciples began to rally around it, knowing that faith was something that was vitally important to Jesus. We read in Ephesians 4:15, it says, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into him who is the head, that is Christ. Paul is saying, when we begin to raise this value up, this truth, we will all come in and grow up into the fullness of what Christ has for us. In Philippians 4:9, it says, he said, whatever you've learned from me, whatever you've heard from me, whatever you've seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. He said, these values that you see in me, that I echo, that I resonate, put them into your life too. When we begin to raise up what we value, when we begin to put emphasis on these things, because people love praise so much, most of the time they will rise to that level, or they will at least attempt to rise to that level, because they see it's valuable to us. They see that they get praise when that is in their life. Look for the things you value, comment on them, praise them, and look for life change to happen in those relationships, whether it's family or work or whatever else. Let them know what you praise, what you value. Let's pray. Lord, I know that you love faith because you commented on it over and over and over again. It was a value that you wanted to raise up. Lord, help us to know the values that can make a difference in our work group, that can make a difference in our family, that can change the family recipe. And Lord, help us to lift those up in such a way that people rally around them. They see that we value them. And Lord, as we lift up those values, as we look for those to be the hallmark of who we are, that you will change our family recipes, that you will do your work in and through us. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, guys, make sure you raise up what you value, and I'll see you tomorrow.